I want to continue this conversation now with Miri, a senior fellow with the International Institute for Counterterrorism, who is retired from the IDF. She joins us from Tel Aviv. Thank you for being here and taking the time. As we just heard in that report, Iran and Israel continue to trade strikes. And the question now is, where are there opportunities for diplomacy? And we've heard from this official with the Iranian presidency who said all it would take is a phone call to Israel by Trump to stop its strikes on Iran. President Trump has indicated that would be a difficult thing to do. What do you see as the path forward here?
The path forward at the end will always be diplomacy. The question is when that steps in. I'm sitting in Tel Aviv right now. It's very quiet. I'll remind everybody that there was another round of incoming Iranian missiles at 2:30 a.m. our time, or maybe it was 1:30. I apologize, we forget our time. So when diplomacy steps in, it's going to be more because of what this impacts in the world, rather than what Israel is targeting specifically inside Iran and the defense that we've put up against these Iranian missiles and drones. I think that the international community has an interest because of oil prices, because of geopolitics, not necessarily because of the Islamic regime and its threat. I understand that difference, but because of that right now, I think that we're being given, I don't want to call it leeway, but we're being given the opportunity to really attack all of these different targets inside the Islamic regime throughout Iran. And within a week, I imagine that we will not stop having targets, but that the world will have much more of a voice on stopping the capability that Israel is showing in Iran.
And as you mentioned, a lot of different interests at play here, I guess, depending on what part of the world you're looking in from. I mean, you are sitting in Tel Aviv, literally listening and seeing parts of your country bombed at points firsthand, I'm sure. Is there a way in which American pressure alone would be enough on Israel to get them to pause for a chance at diplomatic solution, as the diplomatic resolution, as the Iranian officials have intimated?
Omar, it's such an interesting question. In Israel, we just heard before from where Nick was up in Haifa, where the feeling is as if, yes, I think there's a difference also immediately after a missile attack inside Israel, and right now where I'm sitting and it looks kind of nice outside. So I'll say the following, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. Israel is not the 51st state of the United States. We are an incredibly close ally. And we are right now where we are. We border Lebanon. That's where Hezbollah was. We border Syria. We border Jordan. Iran fires these missiles at us from Iran around 1,000 kilometers, and miles away, depends where from in Iran. So I don't think that it would just be U.S. pressure. And I have to say, I don't see that kind of U.S. pressure right now. What could make a difference is if everybody said, Israel, stop. Everybody, meaning both the U.S. and the other allies, and we listen to our allies. But we're the ones who live here. We're the ones who have been under attack directly by Iran from April and October last year and right now. But through their proxies, we've been under attack from Iran for many years. This war didn't just start last Friday because suddenly Iran became a threat to the world. This has been going on for a very long time.
And, let's look at the overall goal, at least of some of the strikes in Iranian territory right now. Of course, the worry is about the proximity to the Iranians being able to have access to a nuclear weapon. We've seen some various estimates about what that exact timeline would be. But bottom line, is there any scenario in which the United States could either assist or lead in an attack on Iranian nuclear capabilities and not be dragged into anything further? I guess my question is there a way to cripple or extremely devastate those nuclear capabilities without triggering something much wider?
Isn't that the question right now that everybody is asking, and especially the different approaches? Because I've heard such different voices, both inside Israel, but certainly in the United States when it comes to U.S. participation. Omar, the Iranians are going to threaten the United States. Khamenei, the supreme leader, has threatened the United States directly. You attack us, we're going to attack you. Khamenei has directly done the same type of threat in this last week against the UK, against France, against Germany, meaning watch out, as long as we attack Israel, that's okay. And just look at this. And again, I'm smiling. It's not like I'm happy. The question being, can you attack the different regime, and especially the nuclear sites, without the Islamic regime responding? I think that also has to do with what we're attacking right now. Israel is attacking a variety of targets. We're not just attacking the nuclear sites. From the beginning, we've been attacking the different places that the Islamic regime used to attack both U.S. troops in the past inside Iraq or anywhere in the Gulf areas, and certainly what attacks us. We've intercepted over the last week over 1,500 Iranian drones. I mean, we don't talk about the drones because they've all been intercepted. Those are capabilities that could be used against U.S. sites. So my bottom line is that I think that Iran would absolutely respond. I do think so. I don't think that that's the reason not to attack, because then we are yet again succumbing to the Islamic regime threats to the world. And those threats have almost paralyzed us for over 20 years, where we've allowed proxies to do whatever they want and all sorts of forces that are very negative to do whatever they want, and nobody touches Iran. That nuclear capability is a real definitive threat, not just against Israel that has been directly threatened to be annihilated, but for me, to any place those missiles and drones arrive at, and that's anywhere, anywhere in Europe, anywhere in Asia.
Miri Eisen, really appreciate you taking the time from Tel Aviv. Thanks for the time and insight.
Thank you, Oma.